Hey, it's your financial maven, Samantha Mittman-Besnoff, CPA. And for the last 30 years, yes, 30 years in the accounting world, I absolutely love sharing my insights and passion about money for individuals, entrepreneurs, and small business owners. Knowing your money and hopefully feeling less stressed about your money is what I call being financially empowered. Welcome to the Your Financial Maven podcast. All right. Welcome to the latest episode of Your Financial Maven. Today, my guest is the host of the award-winning New York Times top 4 personal finance podcast, Shari Rush's Everyone's Talkin Money. So I'm very excited to have you here, Shari. You are a nationally recognized wealth advisor, speaker, and you're the founder of GWA Wealth, which is a virtual advisory firm where you help women to create money strategies that match their goals and lives. And I love how you talk about it, doing it without shame, spreadsheets, and making your eyes bleed, or any financial advice, of course, for women that is stuck back in the 1950s. So Shari, welcome to Your Financial Maven.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited for our conversation.
Yeah, I am too. I am. We both love to talk about money. So I think this is great when you have two people who are trying to take that taboo away and talk about it. So I'm going to actually ask you, because I ask all my guests, whether they're in the field or not, what is money?
At first, I'm thinking, I'm putting on my hat of like podcast host and thinking about everyone else, like what everyone else's reaction is to it. But money is just the way we get things done.
Yeah, definitely is. And you're right. It's one of those things that, and I do this too with other guests and myself, that we are talking to people about money, but it's like, what do we think about it? Because our lived experiences kind of shape that. So how did you really get involved in being a financial advisor, but really for women and talking about something that people say is taboo, which is money?
Yeah. So it's going to be a little bit of a long answer to a short question, but I always liked money. I never realized I liked it. I always had an interest in it. But again, I didn't realize it because you don't talk about it. You just think things are normal or everyone else thinks this way. But I originally went to school to be a journalist. I wanted to be a news anchor.
Oh, I love it.
And I wanted to be like a news reader. Yeah. I didn't want to give commentary. I just wanted to read the news. That's what I wanted to do. But my professors didn't love that idea. They're like, no, you have to put your opinions up. No, I just want to read the news. I want to be the talking head. It took a little while that I'm like, you know what? I don't know if this is for me. I felt like I was going too against the grain with what I wanted to do and all of that. So I'm like, all right, I think I need to make a switch in majors. I'm like, also like, I kind of want to make money.
Don't we all?
It might take a while in journalism for me to do that. So let's pivot. So I ended up, my college had a great business school and I'm like, well, that's a logical place for me to land. So let me land there. At first I was taking accounting classes and I'm like, there's no way I can do this.
Hey, listen, accounting, look, I have been in the accounting field for 30 years. It really isn't for everybody, but I also think it is important if you're in college or taking classes, you're working in the real world, taking some accounting classes just to have that general sense, I think is great. Whether you go into the field or not, basic accounting, I think everybody should take.
Agreed. I mean, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, business owner, 100%. you need to have these classes. So totally agree. My children's middle school and high school require financial literacy classes, which is just awesome.
My kids did too, although I will tell you, they're both in their 20s now. One's graduated college, one's in his 3rd year of college. I didn't necessarily think what they got out of it was enough. I mean, they had me, right? They had me to help them, but they did have it. It was required. I think it just needs to be more robust, given the times we're in now.
You can't survive without having some type of knowledge, especially like for our children, because there's just so many places you can get information from.
Yeah, absolutely. And some of it isn't correct. So you have to,
exactly.
You have to know.
Exactly.
All right. So you didn't like the accounting. So you ended up doing some other business or.
I ended up in finance and that was great. And I'm like, I'm going to be a financial advisor. This makes sense. I remember like I said, like liking money, like talking, and like my friends and I would have like some conversations about money. So it all seemed very natural. So I graduated college, got my licenses to be a financial advisor, and then it turns out no one's giving their life savings to a 22-year-old fresh out of college.
Probably not.
I was very disappointed with that realization.
Yeah, little hard, but you went to school, you have the certifications. I mean, listen, when I graduated at 21, I was going for my CPA license, and I mean, I didn't get it till I was close to 30, but I was still working with clients, and they're like, "You're so young. How do I know you know what you're doing?" I'm like, well, I did get trained for it, so I don't know. We'll learn along the way together, I guess.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's how I ended up in finance. It kind of found me-ish. And I worked on the corporate side for 13 years, traveling, talking with advisors, understanding their businesses, providing solutions to them. And then I created my own firm. And then the podcast and everything came after that.
And I think, you bring up the podcast, and yours is called, again, Everyone's Talkin Money, which I think is great because we need to be talking about this. In your experience, and in particular with women, what are you finding is that reason or gap for not talking about it? Because I will bend anybody's ear that wants to talk about it, and they know it. My friends know it. My kids know it. My kids' friends know it. My niece and her fiance just bought a house, and I had great conversations with them. I mean, I was all like excited because they did learn stuff, but until you put yourself into certain situations, you just don't know and maybe not know where to go. So kind of like, how do you see that gap, or what is it that you're seeing as you're doing your own podcast and talking about money?
So I think the average woman doesn't talk about money because that is not a welcoming space for us.
Yeah.
They don't have an aunt talking, excited to talk. My kid, they don't have a mother that's so excited like we are to talk to our children about it. So no one's ever talked to them about it. It's, dad handles the money. My husband handles the money. I mean, if I had $1 every time I heard, oh, my husband handles everything and he has the spreadsheet and and I just let him do it and I don't know anything. And I'm like, okay. We're not even going to get into it.
It's not like we're judging, outside. Right? We're not judging them. It's just, we're trying. We want you to know, right? We need you to know.
Exactly. Exactly. Important. I'm like, we're standing outside school having small talk. I can't convince you to participate in the finances right now, but like, I wish I could.
Yeah.
And so it hasn't been a welcoming space for women. Like women have had to break in, and we're still minorities when it comes to the financial industry, mainly because I think, I know men and women speak a different language when it comes to money.
We do.
If you're a man, the way a male speaks about money is more about performance and numbers and all of that. And the way a woman thinks or speaks about money is, what can it do for me? Is it going to help me achieve my goals? So right there, those are two very different languages. So if like a husband and wife are sitting down and he's like, here, look at this investment account. It returned 17% this year and did it like right over because it's a completely different language. What she wants to hear is, oh, great. Does that mean we're going to be able to pay for our kids' college?
Yeah.
Does that mean we're going to be able to buy the house we're thinking of buying? That's what she wants to know. But it's just two different ways of speaking, and no one's wrong. That's the thing. No one's wrong.
You know what? You're so right about that. And I think I've heard stories where, you go to a restaurant, if you go with your spouse or partner, and typically the men just take the receipt, hand it back, and they just know it cost me $60 for dinner. Whereas most women will look at the receipt and make sure everything got charged right. And I think it's neither are wrong. It's just how we approach it.
Exactly. Or like, I was sitting down with a couple the other day and they wanted my help just to like get their finances together, and they had really good income. They had nothing to show for it. And they replayed the money conversations they've had for their entire marriage. And she's just like, he can save money all day, like all day long. He can save money.
Yeah.
And I can't and because he could just accumulate money in a savings account and think that's great. She's like, I don't think that's great. I need a reason to save.
Right.
And like just that alone, like that's been like the missing piece. Like, okay, let's gamify your savings now.
Yeah.
Let's set goals. What are we trying to achieve? She's super competitive. So it's like, oh, I understand this.
Yeah.
So like decades of a marriage going, why can't you save money? And he's going, and she's like, well, because I don't have any motivation to. Piling money in a bank account's not doing it for me.
Well, and that's, that also depends on where you're piling your money in the bank account too, right? I know interest rates aren't great, but if you've got a decent amount. You can put it in a high yield type of account that maybe gets you a little more interest. And then what do you do with that interest, right? You can pull it out. And like you said, if you have goals on top of that, I think it helps. And I think, some of it too is just women just let the man deal with it. And then the issue becomes if something happens, they split up, the spouse or partner passes away. Now what? That's why we talk about it, because it's important to understand you might not want to pay the bills and do the spreadsheets, but you still have to be able to understand where the bank accounts are, what's in the bank accounts, and make sure you have authorization. That's huge too.
Yeah. I mean, the reality is there's a 94% chance a woman is going to be solely responsible for her finances at some point in her life.
100%.
So whether it's through divorce or widowhood or never getting married and always being the sole decision maker, but it would be a lot easier if you have one of those major transitions, divorce, widowhood, that you're already comfortable-ish with your finances versus going through that major transition, emotional, psychological, all of that, and then having to learn about your money on top of it. Like, that's terrible.
Yeah.
That's a terrible experience.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I'm a little opposite. Like, I do all the bills, I do all the accounting for the finances, but I make sure that my husband and I do sit down and we talk about it, and he has access to everything, and just so he gets it. And he'll occasionally look at stuff and question me on it. Like, well, why are we doing it this way? And the conversations lately have revolved around college and paying for our kids' colleges and like, where's the money coming from and how do we want to do this? But I think that, yes, I am an expert in my field. I have that knowledge, but I think other women who aren't strong in accounting or numbers can have those really good conversations if they at least have an understanding of what they have, what's coming in, and kind of what's going out in their, especially if they're joined together. And if they're by themselves or, they're partnered with a partner and they each have separate accounts, it's still good to have an idea, because I think that conversation is important.
Totally. And like, the news flash, like with money, is like, you don't have to be good at math to know what's going on with your money. And I hear that all the time. Well, I'm just terrible at math, so I'm not going to handle my money. You don't have to be good at math. The math is done for you. You just have to know where everything is. It's all right there if you log on and you look at statements and all of that.
I totally agree with you, because people say, oh, you were a math major. And I'm like, no, I was an accounting major. I was like, I can add, subtract, divide, multiply. I can do that. But math majors get into like, the in-depth of different equations and math. So I'm like, if you can add and subtract, divide and multiply, then, that works. And it's interesting. I was going through, some of your bio and some of your questions. And one of the things you talk about is people don't have to love their money. And I think this is interesting because I've had several people on already who talk about loving your money and understanding your money. But you say that people don't have to love it to take care of it. So could you, I'd love to hear that side of it, considering that I've had guests on talking about actually loving your money.
Most people do not have a positive relationship with money.
It's true.
Right? They don't think of money as positive.
Right.
So how am I going to take you from having a negative relationship with something to loving it?
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
That is a steep battle. Like, that is a hill to climb. Yeah. And like, it's going to be long and maybe probably not successful and definitely exhausting. So I want to take my clients understanding their relationship with money. So you need to understand, when I say the word money, what do you think of? Or like you said, what is money to you?
Right.
And really understanding that. And what is your first money memory? That right there tells you a lot about your relationship with money.
Yeah, it's true.
Because likely it's not going to be positive. I heard my parents argue. I was told we can't afford this, all of that stuff, which is totally normal and common. So it's fine. Like, there's nothing wrong with it, but we need to acknowledge it first. We need to sit in it for a second and like, wow, maybe this is why I've never wanted to participate in money. I don't like it, or I feel icky, or I feel weird that I make good money. Like, there's so much there. Right.
Yeah.
But money's neutral. Money's neutral. It just is. It's a tool to get things done. It's a tool to accomplish stuff. We can't survive without money. We use it every day, multiple times a day. So how terrible is it that, one, we have a bad relationship with something you use every day and you need to survive, right? So I just want to bring my listeners and my clients to neutral.
Yeah,
like, it is what it is. Like, it's money. It's a tool. I need it to retire. I need it to buy my house. I need it to buy groceries. I need it to put gas in my car. I need it for these things.
Yeah, it's a good point.
And like, if you just look at it that way, your relationship is going to become so much better with it because you're just using it for its purpose.
Right. Because it's not a person. It's not. And I could see that, right? I can understand that. And like I said, my guests that have been on talking about loving your money, I think some of them feel like really passionate about that, but I think you're right. It's taking that step back first to understand that. And, that's why I strive with my listeners. And when I talk to people, like, what is your money story? How did you learn about money? How did you get started? Growing up in the 70s and 80s, nobody really talked about it. You watched, you observed, doesn't mean it was right or wrong. You listened, right? If your parents were arguing about it, I had a dichotomy. I had my grandmother living with us who viewed money one way, and my dad, and then my mother. So it was like three adults trying to figure out, is it right or is it wrong? And I think that's important too. It's not necessarily right or wrong how you view money. It's, like you said, how did you learn about it? And how do we move past that to maybe get a healthier relationship with it?
Becoming aware of it, I think is the biggest thing, because again, we don't talk about money. So if we don't talk about money, how are we going to know? If we don't bounce our thoughts off of other people, how are we going to know that we have a negative viewpoint on money?
Right.
We just think it is what it is because that's what we grew up with. That's what we heard.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, and you bring up that point, not just talking adults, but talking with your kids, because you want them to ask you questions. And, I've come across people over the years, clients and friends of friends that thinking that their kids were doing well with their money or their finances, and coming to find out that they're not, because you were too afraid to share something with them, or they were too afraid to come to you and ask those questions. And I mean, even with my own family, I'm like, anybody has questions, just ask. If you want to know something, and we're very open with our kids. We're very open with what we talk to them about. And it's because they need to know. And it's not that we're always getting it right. They just need to know.
They need to have a resource. They need to have someone to talk to. Otherwise, now we're, going to ChatGPT, or we're watching TikTok videos, right? And who knows, they're not money experts, even though they position themselves as. So they need to have a safe place to go to, or a safe person to go to talk these things out. And as a parent, it's so important to have those conversations. You could even say to your kids, I don't like money that much, or I grew up and we didn't talk about this stuff. So this is going to be a little uncomfortable for me too, because this is outside of my comfort zone, and just put it out there. And I think the problem is that we take money as a reflection of ourselves. Well, I don't have as much money, so I'm not a good person, or I'm in debt, so I'm a bad person. I don't like it. No, it just is.
Right. And we shouldn't be comparing ourselves to our friends and our neighbors. And it's hard, right? Because we all do it. And, I have friends who have a lot more financially secure than we are with a lot of things, and they're able to do a lot more, but there are other things going on in their lives that maybe aren't, as great, or it is. And like you said, money is really just the tool. And that's taken me, even as an accountant in this field, a long time to be like, okay, we don't have the large house that some of our friends have, and all these fancy cars, and going on all these trips all the time. But we have certain securities and certain things that we made decisions. We didn't want to be house poor. When we purchased our house, we wanted to have it within the means that we knew we could afford it, because we didn't want to have to feel like we're strapped to the house. We wanted to be able to do things for our kids, go on vacation. And I think women in particular need to understand that it's okay maybe right now to get, if you can afford a house that's $140,000, but you want that $200,000 house, maybe make that a goal. Start somewhere and then build yourself to that goal. Because I think, like you said, that changes your mindset, and that gives you something to look forward to.
It's having the awareness, being strategic.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest lesson, I think, is giving your money some thought. You have to give it some thought and make decisions. And there is give and take, right? And so going back to your previous point of loving our money, there is an energy to money, right? There is, if you show it respect, I believe you need to show it respect, be nice to it, and that's a way to not stretch it, not put so much pressure on it, but being strategic, like you said, not overbuying when it comes to the house, because then that's going to put so much pressure on your money every month going forward, right? Until something major changes or whatever, but it could be forever that way. And then you hate money, but it's because you overextended yourself with your mortgage.
Yeah. And I also, in that realm, I always say, if you understand your money and you still make certain choices because you want to make those certain choices, that's fine. There's no shame in it. We're not shaming you. Neither one of us are. We're just saying, paying attention more to that. So in that same realm, you talk about focusing on the big three expenses instead of small expenses. So what are those big three expenses that you like to talk about, and how should people work with that and approach that?
So I hate budgeting.
Okay.
I hate budgeting.
You're not alone.
I do. No, 70% of people agree with me. Budgeting doesn't work. So I hate budgeting. I think it is super restrictive. It discourages spending money. It makes us feel bad for spending money. Some people, is a population, and it really is, a certain money personality that loves budgeting, loves the restriction, loves the spreadsheets, loves all that. And that's fantastic. But that doesn't apply to everyone, right? So I think that's where financial gurus fail us, is that they just think budgeting works for everyone, and it doesn't. So I don't like feeling restricted ever. Like, budgeting is what I call the caged animal effect. You can do your budget and stick to it for a minute, and it might feel okay. Like, okay, I see I'm not spending money. This is good. It kind of feels good, but it really doesn't. And then you break out of it. and then you're going crazy and you're buying all those things you would have bought during that time. And then you go through the shame spiral. So I like to create what I call, instead of spending, strategy.
Okay.
We have to spend.
Yeah.
We have to spend money. And with having children, there's always a random expense that pops up, and it's never $5. It's $10, $20, $40,
Mom,
$80.
Can I have $100? What do you need that for?
Yes. Like going to the trampoline park. It's like, that just cost me $80. It's like, are you kidding me? And that came out of complete nowhere. So there's always something that comes up, but like, who has trampoline park in their budget, or even has like kids ask me for a random outing this month in their budget? We don't. If you were to say, what are your expenses? Everyone goes to your mortgage or rent, your utilities, your car payment, your insurance, your gas, your groceries. And we usually underestimate that. Our gas, we underestimate. Like, it's just these basic things. Yeah. And it doesn't account for those one-offs, the car insurance that we pay every 6 months, our property taxes, our HOA fees. Like, we don't factor that into our monthly budget because it's not a monthly expense. And then that stuff happens and we're not prepared for it because we're spending the money that's coming in on the monthly budgetary stuff. And even still, we're in those categories. It's just way overwhelming. So instead, I create, like, the first step of it is like, if someone's saying, well, I'm spending too much money or I can't save. First, I'm looking at expenses, and the three categories where we spend are needs. So obviously basic expenses, but this is where you also have to be real with yourself. My house needs Netflix.
Right. Baby. Right.
If I have 4 children, if we didn't have Netflix,
right, you're right.
It would not be good.
Right. There is that. I think it's a self-determination of what the needs are, because you need the Netflix, but like, I have Netflix. I don't need it, but I have it because I enjoy the shows on it. So yes, yeah.
So in our like, Netflix is a need because that's all my children watch, like Netflix and YouTube. That's it. There's no cable going on in my house with my children.
Is cable even around? Hulu. Sorry.
Yeah. What is it? Digital? I don't know.
Anymore,
I just aged myself. Whatever it is.
Me too.
But like, so Netflix is a need, but like Hulu or Disney Plus, that's a want. We can live without it. We watch one show on it. It's not necessary. So what are your needs? And this is where you really have to be honest with yourself. Like, I need to get my hair done every 6 weeks. Like, for the sake of everyone around me, anyone that's watching me on YouTube, I need my hair done every 6 weeks. I'm not a happy camper if I don't have my hair done. I don't feel good. My personality's not the same. I don't look as good. Like, that's a need.
Yeah.
Like,
for you, that's your need. Yes. 100%.
That's my need.
100%.
Other people would say that's frivolous. That's unnecessary. But we're not judging. We're just being honest. Like, what are your needs? I need to go out through the drive-through once a week because my kids' practice ends at 8:30. I'm not cooking dinner at 8:30. Like, we need to feed them, get them in bed. Like, that's it. That's a need. Do I need to do it 2 other times in the week?
Probably not.
No, I don't. Right. I'm just doing that out of convenience.
Right.
So like, that's where you start to think about things.
Yeah, I like that.
So first is needs. Second is wants. This is pure lifestyle. So this is stuff we can live without if push came to shove. We lost our jobs, whatever emergency happened, we can live without it. So whatever that is. And that's what you have to be really honest, because we can justify every purchase we make,
of course
right?
we can, right?
So
Everything that we make, we can say, oh, I needed that, whatever. And yeah, I get it, because we do it too. I mean, we sit there and we're like, what do we need? What do we want? And I mean, right now we need to be able to pay for college. So a lot of our wants are on hold, or we're building up the wealth for our wants. We're not forgetting them. We're putting money away. We're having goals, but we're just not spending it in the immediate future.
Exactly. So needs, wants, and then I call it wishes.
Okay.
Now, wishes are anything that increases your net worth.
Okay.
Saving. So net worth is what you own minus what you owe. Right. So savings, but debt payoff also increases your net worth.
Oh, absolutely.
So anything that increases your net worth, if we're saving to fund our emergency fund, if we're saving for a vacation, if we're saving for college payments, whatever it is we're saving for, or if we're just, tackling our student loans and that payment, whatever it is to increase our net worth, that's a wish.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. So first going through spending, and is this a need? Is this a want? Is this a wish? And just identifying your expenses that way. Ideally, we need to save, right?
Absolutely.
You need to pay yourself.
Absolutely.
So this may not happen right away, but in an ideal world, if your needs are about 50% of your take-home income, your wants are about 30%, and your wishes are 20%, you're in a really good spot.
Yeah.
Like half your income's going to stuff you need. And also that includes the Netflix and your hair getting done.
Whatever you categorize as that. And I think you're bringing up a good point. And I've talked about this all the time. If you can't start with that percentage, or you can't feel like you can put a lot of savings away, start with something, even $1, $5, something to get the habit. Because I think once you start doing that, then you'll realize, wow, I can do that. But I think it goes back to knowing what you have coming in income, and then being able to say what's going out and where do I want to categorize it under those 3 categories that you gave.
Exactly. And so the needs are 50, wants are 30%. And that's a lot.
That is a lot. That's 80% of your money going towards needs and wants.
Exactly. So then if push came to shove, and your kids are in college and we have to pay the tuition or whatever, okay, then we shrink our wants. But what that means is you're leaving 20% to saving, debt reduction. And that's a really good number. Now, odds are it's not magically going to be that day one, right? When you go through it. But it gives you a starting point, or it gives you a place you want to be. Now, let's say someone has a big mortgage, right?
Yeah. And
their needs end up being 70%. Okay, well, then that means you have 10 to 15% for the wants. And you just have to make, some lifestyle shifts, because you still want to save. The problem is we then will keep up with our wants and not save anything. And I think we still need to keep that 20.
We do. And I think it makes it flexible. And also the fact that you can do the shifting. Nobody's sitting there above you, even when you're budgeting, right? Even if you're doing a budget, there is nobody above you with a gavel going, nope, you can't do that. You're going to jail or whatever. It's really that mental in your head of how restricted am I with that? And it's interesting because, I talk about budgeting. I talk about spending plans. I talk about the needs, wants. Well, the needs, wants, save, the need, wants, wishes that you talk about, the percentage method. People do the envelope method. I actually, for myself, we don't budget. I mean, as an accountant, I don't budget. I really don't. But what I do is do a cash flow every month of the month coming up of going, okay, what's in my bank account? What do I know that's coming in? Mostly my husband's paycheck, because I do get paid. My clients are monthly clients. I get my paid. I work for myself, but I don't have a paycheck. My husband has the paycheck. So I kind of go off of that. And then I go off of what bills I have to pay. Well, my credit card bills, I know I have to pay, any financing I have for a car, or if I had to buy appliances, and college. And then of course, like you said, any of the wants, anything else. And I kind of estimate what will I have at the 15th of the month and at the end of the month, because that's kind of how my bills are half, first half, second half. And then I look to see what's extra. And then I go, okay, I can put some of this away in savings and still have enough in the bank account to cover a one-off want or something that happens that I wasn't expecting. And then I don't really look at my bank account on a daily basis to make sure the money's there to pay the bills. And I've just gotten into doing this, and I don't really budget. I don't really do this want, need, save. I need to do a little more of the needs, wants, and save, but I do try to do about the 20% for savings because I want it to grow. And, like I said, we've got about a year and a half left of college to pay for, and it ain't cheap. Even with financial aid or scholarships, it adds up.
Yeah. And I think however you go about it, like finding whatever works for you, but doing something about it. Like you don't look at your bank account every day because you don't have to. You set up a system that works for you.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
But it's like, okay, are you getting a bellyache even thinking about opening up your banking app because you don't know what you're going to see on the other side of the screen? That's where the issue arises. And that's where you need to do some work to be involved in your money, know where it's going, and just looking at where the spending is. And you're right. Like no one's behind you saying you were wrong, you were bad. Right. We put that on ourselves. And budgeting didn't work for me because I'm like, yep, no one's watching me. I could do whatever I want. Like that's why budgeting doesn't work for me because I'm like, these numbers aren't going to tell me what to do.
Right.
But having like the guardrails in place is what you need. And then that way, by having the guardrails, knowing you're going to have money in your bank account no matter what happens,
100%,
right?
Yes,
is what takes a lot of the drama away from just looking at your money.
Yeah. And I think that leads into, talking about this, and people are probably going, oh my God, but that would still make me stressful, coming up with percentages and figuring this out and that whole psychological aspect of understanding finance. And we keep talking about it, but I think it's important that if you understand your income that's coming in on a monthly basis, every month I'm getting $8,000 in a paycheck and I'm getting a little extra from this. And I know that I have to pay XYZ. I think that helps. I think people, especially with credit cards, I think people don't realize you put something on a credit card, you're putting it on in August. You're not going to have to pay for that until September. So that's a cash flow thing of, yes, you might be putting your gas, right? You know that you buy gas for your car 2 or 3 times a week. But if you're putting it on the credit card, you just have to be aware, like you said, of what it is, because you're really paying the credit card back. You're not paying that expense twice. You've already bought that expense. You've already paid for the gas. Now you got to pay back the company that paid for it. It's like a delayed thing. I get into a habit of, especially when I know when my credit card's closed, depending on certain things. And if I know the balance and I don't want that card to get over a certain balance, I'll wait to pay for something until that one closes. Because even though my credit card balance is higher, I don't owe that now for 2 months. Like I play a little bit of that game because I have the confidence to understand. I think that's what we're trying to say, that the psychology behind it. So when you're working with your clients or you're talking on your podcast or talking at, as a speaker, how do you get that across to people and help them feel less shame and give themselves grace? We have to give ourselves grace with all of this.
The biggest thing is this is no reflection of who you are as a person.
Right.
This does not dictate the type of woman, mother, daughter, husband, wife. It has no impact on that. But we bring so much of that into our identity, the money stuff into our identity, and it's no reflection. And the beautiful thing with money is that it doesn't matter. Like it only looks forward.
Yeah.
Like you could have made mistakes in the past and you say, I'm going to change, and you can make a positive impact very quickly by just saying, you know what, that did not work, or that was a mistake. And don't go, that was a mistake. I'm an idiot, or I'm so stupid. I'm never going to be able to handle my money. I made a mistake. Okay, let's move on. Like let's learn how to fix it.
I would say not even necessarily calling it a mistake. You made a choice. You had the money at the time and you made a choice, right or wrong. You made the choice. Okay. Now you don't want to do that. What can we do to move forward on that?
Yeah. Yeah. So just removing the emotion that we slap on our money is the biggest lesson. I think that is the message behind really the podcast and the work that I do with my clients, is just removing the emotion and just using it for what it is and getting the most out of money that we possibly can.
100%. I've been to a lot of Philadelphia Phillies games in the last couple of weeks. Love it. Love my Phillies. But we were at the game a couple weeks ago with my son and my husband, and my son, almost 24 years old, so we're having a good time, whatever. And he decided, I want to get myself a Phillies jersey, like a new one, because the one he's been wearing to like games, it's from like high school or he's very tall and skinny. So like no growth. And he went and got himself a Bryce Harper jersey. It's not cheap, but he came over, he's like, I did this. And I said, listen, you are working full time. You have a job. It's okay to spend on yourself. You're enjoying this, because he had a little guilt, like after he came over that, I just spent this amount of money on a jersey. And I said, okay, but you enjoyed this? And he's like, yeah. I said, so that feeling of guilt after you purchase something that could be $200, $300, $400, whatever it is, can make people go, oh my God, what'd I do? But if it's something that you feel that, okay, I feel it then, but then going forward, yeah, I'm glad I did this. Like, it's okay. And the fact that I was able to tell him, like, okay, your money, your choice, like, it is what it is.
Well, and it's good that you recognize that he was struggling with it, because that's the big thing too. Like, even seeing like, oh, he was having this internal struggle of this and feeling bad and starting to beat himself up. Like, this is totally not necessary. Like, you've been paying for that jersey all those years you were wearing the old jersey from high school, right? You earned this. Literally, you earned it by wearing the old jersey, and now you earned it with your own money and you paid for it. And this is what you did. And that's awesome.
And there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah.
Exactly. You knew you had enough money to pay for it. So you did everything you were supposed to do. Now wear it and enjoy it. And Bryce Harper's going to be a Hall of Famer. So like that jersey's going to be fine. Like, he's going to wear it forever.
That's right. He will. And it's great because it was just like, okay, then we move on. And I think that point of making sure people understand that, okay, yeah, I mean, look, don't get me wrong. I've bought things over the years and I'm like, oh, why did I do that? Right? I've had purchases. Why did I do that? I've had a couple of friends who have had surgery and have purchased things while they were like on their pain meds and, purchased more than they should have. I mean, they've returned some of that stuff, but it happens in that moment. And I think that's where you and I are with your podcast and my podcast and talking to people, being able to help them change that viewpoint of money. And the way we do it is we talk about money.
Absolutely. We have to talk about it. And I think also why people get weird about talking about money, we've shared some things, but like, you haven't told me how much money you make. You haven't told me how much is in your bank account. You haven't told me how much you have in retirement, where we've been talking for 40 minutes now. And it's not as if we're sharing personal information about our money. And I think that's where people get confused too, is I talk about money, you talk about money all day long, but no one knows how much money I have or don't have in my bank account. Like, we don't know any of this. And I think people get confused with talking about money meaning you know how much I have, or you know how much I make.
I have to tell you how much I get monthly from my clients and what my husband's paycheck is. No, it's really talking about the processes and what we can do with our money and how we feel about it, which I think is important. So, 2025 is coming to an end. I can't even believe it. Like, I'm starting to get ready for tax season and I'm like, ugh, right? And businesses and people need to start planning before the year end. But do you have any tips or insights that I think for year end for people to kind of have them end the year with some confidence? And then of course, going into 2026.
Yes. So I am right now on the podcast for September. I put a, back to school, I use the word budgeting because no one can think of a better word when we Google it. So a back to budgeting series. And it's like, did you have a good summer? Yes. Great. You had fun. Awesome. Now let's just get back on track. And so how do we get back on track? But then we need to also prepare for the next expensive season, which is coming soon, the holidays.
100%.
So then we have to start preparing for that. So how do we get back on track and then start preparing for the holidays? So you always need to think a little bit ahead. And we act surprised every time these times come around. I just spent so much money. You spent so much money last year and the year before and the year before. And it's okay, but this time let's prepare for it.
Yeah.
So let's prepare. Let's start saving for the holidays. And then once you start doing that, it just becomes automatic. Oh, I know I have to pay my car insurance. It comes due every June and December. Let me start saving a little bit starting in January. So then June, I can pay for it. Summer camps, you don't pay for summer camps in the summer. You pay for summer camps in January and February.
And I don't think people realize that, right? Like, especially if you send your kids to overnight camps or day camps, they want that money first of the year.
Yes.
Like, it's,
yes.
Yep. I've been there, done that.
So start preparing. So start preparing. So just preparing for all of these things. So even if it's like opening up, having this like savings account and you put $200 a month in it. And it's for all of those random things that don't fit into the monthly budget. Like that's how you can start preparing, because every season is going to have something.
100%. And I've talked to some other friends and financial people, but we actually have utilized a little bit of the CDs as a way to put some of our money away, let it grow for 3 to 6 months, get some interest. And then, we don't renew it. We actually pull it out and then use it for what we wanted to do. And yes, we had a little extra cash around to do that. But for our own personal, it was so we wouldn't touch it. I can keep it in our high yield money market and everything, but that's easily touched because I can transfer and, it's that, I can take it. But if it's sitting in a vehicle like a stock or a CD or other vehicles, other ways of doing it that you won't easily pull it out, that helps too. And that's a plan. That is just, I'm just talking about it because it's more for planning, right? We know we have to pay this in 3 months. Ooh, let's throw some money in there.
That's very clever. I mean, that's a great idea. And it's also, you understand yourself. If it's in the high yield, I can just do a couple clicks and that money's transferred. Right. When it's in the CD, it's quote unquote locked up. So you can't touch it. So I think that's you understanding your patterns. And I think that's a great solution.
Yeah, and I think that
didn't require any math.
It didn't. No.
It was just you understanding yourself.
A little bit of math because they didn't take it had a limit as to how much you could put in the CD. And I had to sit there and figure out how did I want to do it? But yes, it really, if even like you said, opening up another account. And the other thing that I tell people with that too, with the planning is that checking account that you have most likely isn't getting any interest or dividends or any growth. So you should really only keep in that what you need to pay for things when you need to. So having another account to transfer it in and out kind of a thing, you can do that because I know people who keep so much money in their checking account or accounts that don't give them growth. And then they wonder why they're not getting growth. So I think that's important too in the planning.
Absolutely. One thing that I do with my clients is, everyone has a number that when they open up their bank app, one number feels better than the other. So what is that number for you? First step is let's make sure you have that number in your checking account at all times.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
$1,000, $500, right, whatever it is, to even $10,000. Because after time, if they say a big number well, I want $20,000 in my checking account. Okay, we'll do that. And then after time, they go, I don't need that much money in my checking account.
That's the point.
They discover it.
Right.
I let them do it.
Right.
That's fine. Because I'm not going to force something on you. Because if you don't feel good about what we're doing, it's never going to come to fruition. So fine, you call the shots. And then they're like, I don't need, how can we get this money working for me? I really only need 5,000 in it or whatever it is.
I think that's great because it's that psychological control that you have control of what you want to do with your money, which is so important and very valuable. And it took me over time to learn that. I have to say COVID really helped us start to put money away and save because we weren't going anywhere, we weren't doing anything. And that's when I started to do this cash flow kind of thing that I do so that I could see what do I really need to keep in the checking account so that I'm not checking it every day and I'm not driving myself nuts. Because psychologically, I was going crazy. Oh my God, can I pay for this bill? Because there were times in the 30 plus years I've been out of college and married and having kids that we were living paycheck to paycheck and it was a struggle. And people are like, but you're an accountant but okay, but I still have to live a life. I still have kids to take care of. I have a husband. We have things that happen too, right? We just had to replace our whole air conditioning and heating unit and it wasn't cheap. And we had to figure out how to balance that with college payments and with, car payments and all that. So I think that's great if you start with the number, or if you don't have enough, then you say, oh, I need to put more in, right? That balance. I think that's great.
Yeah, it's just asking yourself these questions and just giving everything some thought, giving it the thought and giving it the consideration. Because when you do that, you're then coming from, some of it's still emotional, but it's not hysterical emotion. Right. It's some of it's it feels better when I do this. Okay, then let's do it, versus the hysterical emotion of I don't have enough money and I'm never going to have enough and it's bad and all of this stuff. it helps to eliminate that and like just, again, get it to a neutral place.
Yeah, I love it. This conversation has been great. And I think, we've touched and talked about a lot of same things over and over, but I think because we're trying to get that message out. So where can people, find you, Shari, and get in touch with you? And I will say her podcast is Everyone's Talkin Money. And I think you can find that wherever you listen to your podcast, correct?
Absolutely.
Find that. But where else can they find you?
So I'm on Instagram at Everyone's Talking Money. So that's where we're posting clips from the episodes and all of that fun stuff. You can also go to everyone'stalkingmoney.com and learn about the Everyone's Talking Money Club and get in there.
Ooh, I'm going to have to join.
And then also,
ooh, I like that.
And then my firm, my financial planning firm is called GWAwealth.com. So GWAwealth.com is where you can learn about how I work with my clients.
I love it. And I'll get all that into the show notes so that people will have direct links. Any last minute tips or tricks you'd love to share?
I think, take one thing that we said today, take one action item and just implement it and just realize how much easier your life is becoming just by implementing it. You don't have to do all of it. You don't have to read the finance books. Take one thing that resonated with you and just do it.
Oh, I love it. Shari, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much. This was a great conversation.
Follow, like, and subscribe to Your Financial Maven wherever you listen to your podcasts. And make sure that you leave your money stories or questions for me at www.yourfinancialmavenpodcast.com. I cannot wait to hear what you have to say about money. The purpose of this podcast is to provide general information on the subjects discussed. It is for educational, informational, and entertainment purposes only. It is not meant to resolve your specific financial needs or situations. Please consult with your CPA, tax, or financial professionals. Your Financial Maven is hosted and produced by Samantha M. Besnoff, CPA, and Your Financial Maven, LLC. Editing is done by Chris Zarnock of KM Zen Creative. Music is written, composed, and performed by Daniel Shore.